kind of stuff. So let's take a look at the firmware update process as I get out of beta and into the current firmware of the Polyend Play. I'll stick with you in the bottom here. Wonderful. All right. Let's see. I'm just still looking at your things. Stop using Windows. I love how people get so angry that other people use the operating system they don't use. I was just watching like a big also one other part about having COVID that, you know, everybody's heard of is brain fog. And I was like, I always have brain fog, so I'll be fine. I have like extreme brain fog. Like I seriously, I set up the stream for 90 minutes. I had everything down here. I literally was just like, I have to download a plugin for OBS. Okay. And then like, I'm just like looking at the OBS homepage, like where's downloads? What's a plugin? And you could watch me. So if I could get through like setting up this firmware here without destroying this thing, then you know that they've done a good job. All right, are we flashing? Hopefully you get some like awful firmware update sounds. Those are always nice. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Somebody was just recently complaining about the Windows forced updates, or you know how Windows nags you to update your machine. Like somebody was just saying like that's the deal breaker for them, but it's kind of funny because I feel like every single time that I open my Mac, it's screaming at me to update, and then I do the little not now, or later. I press the later, and then it's like sign in to schedule the later time. It's just like, what kind of a fucked up doctor's appointment menu is this? It's, but whatever. And the one thing about iPads, I don't have an iPhone, but the one thing about iPads and Mac OS that makes me lose my mind is they have these amazing fingerprint reader. Like my MacBook Air has a fingerprint reader, and I just touch the on button and it unlocks. My iPad has a fucking 3D scanner that scans my face to unlock my machine, and apparently it can't even be cloned with like Hollywood people making fake heads. All this technology, and then I open it up to use this bio and this stuff that's so much safer than passwords, and it's like, enter your PIN in order to use the fingerprint scanner. It's like, what the fuck do you have it there for anyway? It drives me nuts, but I'm going to stop complaining. And there's probably a way to disable it. I think I've searched, though, and I haven't been able to find anything that intuitive. I'm just going to open up a new session here. I don't know what real changes have been made. So here we are. You already watched my video, probably. You already watched Lupop's video, which came out a few hours earlier than mine. So let me know what your questions are. You had a lot of questions in the actual premiere of the video. Yeah. Yes, I do have the plague. I was hospitalized for a very brief time with myocarditis. Now I'm hooked up to some, I don't have any machines on me now, but I do have to kind of keep my pulse in check and stuff like that. But I'm in the cough. I'm like, I took some anti-coughing, I like drank some DXM before doing this. I do feel like crap, and this is not going to be a long stream. So just being honest with you, I think I'm probably turning the corner, but I do feel like utter dog shit. So like I said, there's also going to be a lot of mistakes, but I just really wanted to be here for because I've had this thing for a bit, and I really do love it. Who is Nicola Claudine from the Miami intro? A good friend of mine and fellow musician. That I played drums in her album She lives in England, but was in Miami. I was confused how MIDI interaction works with the play. How would MIDI input, say, from a software app out of my hard report into the play work? Or is it only MIDI out? That's a really good question. It has MIDI in. It has MIDI in on the bottom here. So it has like a MIDI DIN in. And I do believe that it has a, let's look at the menu. I do believe that it also has, is this in focus, by the way? Let's make sure that this is in premium focus for Jay. All right. Only for Jay, though. Everybody else, like, cross your eyes a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, you could have notes in, clock in. You could change clock in to MIDI and USB, MIDI and jack. Notes in, MIDI and jack, MIDI and USB. I was able to oh, yeah, and then the CC mapping is absolutely crazy. You have effectively 32 channels of it. And I was able to pretty effortlessly hook up my key step to it without any issue. There should be a manual available. Yes, somebody said that they read the manual and they couldn't find a piece. Somebody was saying that they couldn't find a piece of information. So I think it's go to Polyend's website and have a look. I think it should be available by now. Any built-in effects? Yeah, it actually, let's go through the effects because I don't think I did that very much in my video. So I'm going to load a sample. And rather than kit, I'm just going to, honestly, if you haven't seen my video, please watch my video. I need the advertising revenue. No, please watch my video because I did explain how the kits are so important here. But here's just some like samples of mine. These already have effects on them, so maybe let's not use these. Here we go. Here's some plucks. I think this is just like hitting an old jar of some sort. Actually, can I? Maybe. Wow, I could load that whole folder. Oh, that's cool. That's a new firmware update. Just because it was a little bit more difficult to do things like that. Wow. Okay, great. So I'm gonna select this channel. By the way, I haven't used this in like a week. So any like muscle memory is gonna be gone just because I've been in Miami playing jazz, so, and filming. All right, so I am going to fill random density and go. Oh, by the way, another thing that I need to point out. You know what? Let me go to Euclidean here. Fill. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Fill with 3, maybe 7. Okay. Now we'll have 2 voices, which if we're going to make a melody, it's kind of, I would kind of like these to ring out a little bit. I would also like to randomize the sample in folder by 100%, or you know what, let's use chance instead, not the wrapper. I always want to have a random sample. And then I always want to have a random note. Actually, let's just go back to the... Now I'm gonna raise the notes of everything here. And And this is all to lead you to the effects, to get something to actually sound good with the effects, by the way. Just showing you a little workflow. Let's go to turn scale filter on and go to C minor. All right, let's go C major. Let's try and be happy. Now, effects. So these are our reverb options. Now, obviously, I can just, I go back to patterns here and I can, where is it? So I'm going to change these reverbs, just so you can hear what they sound like. They have like some really, really long ones. Do I have to actually press them? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they're all really good. It's kind of hard for me to like pick one. And they have the same sort of delay options. Like there's a lot of them. Also, if you want, you have all these limiter options on the entire mix. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and then you could sidechain different tracks, of course. And then saturation. And it kind of treats overdrive or saturation as a default, rather, like as if it's always on and you're just turning it up rather than an effect, which I suppose if you're used to like pedals as your way of getting I suppose if you're used to pedals as like the way you're getting distortion, I could see how that might be a little confusing, but that's actually a really good way of looking at things too, is because all it really is just feeding something into a limiter, right? The reverb options, I mean, I like them a lot. I think I like them a lot because one thing that they don't have, I guess if I were to say something, a con about the reverb options, it's that they don't have customization yet. Although, I don't know what I can say and what I can't say. This is the deal on the tracker. Whatever. I know you're going to have it soon. I believe it's coming in the firmware. Just from going through the GitHub and reading what they're working on. So that may even, by the time you have this shipped, it could even be a thing. Let's listen to one really fast. Just gonna crank this up and let's listen to one of the longer ones. I mean, for what this is, that's incredible. Here's a drone. Wow, yeah, okay, so that's actually... I don't know, do you need any more convincing? It's actually really incredible. I'm gonna take a coughing break. Hang on a second here. Okay. Reverb tail's still going. What do you mean incorporating tracker into this product? So I think what you might mean by that, okay, so just sort of unfolding that comment with it, because I do believe there's a little bit of a delay. Oh, I like that, yeah. It's kind of funny, I haven't really... I feel like some of these have been refined in the last firmware. I think I liked space a whole bunch. Yeah, that's really lovely. Okay, so to answer your question about the tracker, I believe the CC mapping, you can just set values for Polyend tracker, and so it just automatically sets everything in the way that the tracker understands. You know, it's kind of funny because I always, if I were to take the Polyend tracker in my head, if I were to say, hey, you know, what are some of the pros and cons of the Polyend tracker? I would say the synthesis engine of the Polyend tracker was always one of the cons, because it's a tracker. Like, even when you're using renoise, you don't expect beautiful analog sounding synth. You expect it to kind of sound, I mean, well, trackers are used for chiptune, right? So it's kind of fumbled in there. But it was still good. It's still high-end audio, but I was just never like, you know, it wouldn't be my first choice to, it wouldn't be anywhere near my first choice to use as a standalone instrument or something. But when hooking it up to this, I really got to explore it that way, if that makes any sense. And if you saw in my video, like that analog sounding pad, and it was more like just sort of a PCM pad that I made with like the granulator, granulizer, whatever they call it on there. That just really drove it home for me. Like that really made it. Yeah, it was kind of funny because I was just like, wow, like using all the voices of the tracker, even with the even going through like a waveform and stuff like that, it made it way more powerful. And that's why I said multiple times in that video, like if you're a fan of the Polyend tracker, if you love your Polyend tracker, this will definitely give you more options with it and more power with it. It works beautifully with, like, it was made with the intention of working alongside the Polyend tracker. This gives MIDI format out, I believe you can have 32, yeah, so MIDI format out, clock out, you could do USB or MIDI, probably both at some point if they add that. I don't know how popular that'll be. Transport out, same deal, and then CC mapping. Yeah, like I mentioned, you have well, okay, so basically I don't have another thing hooked up to this, so I can't demonstrate at the moment, but if you hit shift in this, you go into MIDI mode, and then these are just, you know, you're just setting up channels at this point. Jack channel 1 all the way up to 16, and then USB all the way up 16. So you can control 32 devices in total if you split them up into 16 soft synths and 16 analog synths. And if that's not enough for you, then you have too much money. Because yeah, that would be a cable nest. So that's how that works. And then, like, you know, all these buttons, they have chords, things like that, when you're in MIDI mode. And I mean, and these are all CCs. These just turn into things like CCs and stuff like that you can use for whatever you want on whatever you hook it up with. Like I mentioned, those CCs are automatically mapped to the Polyend tracker if you want it to be, or you can customize it to the Polyend tracker if you know, want to do that as well. But I'm going to start the sample a little later here. Just make it sound gentler. Yeah, and then we also have the limiter volume here too. That can be separate, which is nice. The genre fill will be. I believe that all of the performance mode stuff will be available in MIDI mode. And part of me thinks that the reason it's not right now is because it would just, for an initial, like, I know that Polyend really wanted this to be an easy to use device. Like, they wanted it to be super accessible, because I think like one of the problems with the Deluge, and one of the reasons it didn't take off as much as, like, you know, I guess just in terms of like broad sales as much as an MPC Live did or something like that, is because at the end of the day, you're just looking at a bunch of lights and you have no idea what to do with them. And but I think Polyend put a lot of thought into that. A lot of, like, you know, where if somebody sees this in a music shop or something like that, or if they see a video of somebody doing it, they get to see how quickly you could do things. And so I think they may actually have been delaying rolling out features like that, because it would be chaos to like have all of, because this is essentially two different instruments or two different devices, you know, depending on if you use MIDI mode or normal mode, but both of them work at the same time in the same song. And I think to explain that to people in a sentence is near impossible. I feel like there almost needs to be so it's kind of interesting to use firmware as a sort of like lowering you into the pool. But I do know that the perform mode will be available very soon. I'm going to add a drum kit. I don't know. Actually, I think in the new firmware, I can actually add a whole, let's see if I can. That would be cool. I think you could actually now add full kits. Oh, a whole sample pack. Wait, maybe not. Load full. I don't think I have any on here. I'm still using my old memory card, so let's see. Sample packs. No, I don't have any. Okay. Sample kit, lo-fi hip hop kit. Can I load the whole thing? Then you view the, okay. Sorry, the reason this has taken me a second is because I'm not used to this, not totally used to this new, that they've updated this a bit because there was a little bit of confusion. So I'm going to load the kick folder. I'm also going to load, I'm also going to accidentally touch a knob. I'm also going to load the snare folder. And then maybe, is there a bass folder? Bass folder. Whew, that's a big one. I'm going to fill this up with samples. Hi-hat folder. Cool. Okay. So now, on these three, I'm going to press fill, go to beat, flip. Nice. I kind of dig that. Make the hi-hat much higher. And then I'll ratchet this note. Okay, and then like you may remember, you can add swing to each thing individually if you want. Which, I mean, whatever. I could add it to the whole thing too. Let's maybe just leave it at like a nice loose sound here. Now I'm going to make some of these shorter. I'm going to change the track lengths of, hope you could hear me okay. I'm going to change some of the track lengths here. It's very broken now, isn't it? Okay, and now if you remember that we also have the pattern variations, and so actually this is actually almost breaking my head, so I'm gonna turn back 16. I feel like I've made a very ugly song on accident and I didn't want to, but change this kick. Nice. That's way better. And the snare sounds a bit too much like a sneeze for me. Hey, Venus Theory. It will be, yes. I'll leave this up for a bit. For at least a few days. Let's pop this into a limiter. Let's just play with how we can change these sounds, right? And also, I believe, like I showed earlier, we can also have, I believe 3 is my kick, so that'll be our side chain. And now if we wanted, I believe we limited it a lot, yeah. Sounds great. Sounds absolutely disgusting, I love it. I believe I loaded up some basses. Let's get those going. So yeah, if I could do this with COVID, you could do this. Nice. Oh, you know what I need to do right now? I need to just tune everything to C, because I always do this when I lock something to scale, right? I always make this mistake. That sounds like junk, but there's a reason for it. Yeah. It's kind of funny, these have a ratchet on them automatically. Let's go complete Mr. Oizo with this. texture, we'll change some parameters. It's so gross sounding. So I'm gonna change the sample range really short, like this, and you'll probably notice that it sounds kind of like not that great, but you could just change the fade out. Well, all right, let's go with it. I absolutely love how its time and place is just so odd. Yeah, because you can micro move things, right? So if we wanted to micro move everything to like one spot. All right, so now I'm going to select just the drums here. I'm going to go to perform. Haha, I didn't press it right. There we go. Drop this kick down a few notes. Do we still have this? Yeah. Was there any mix-up? So one thing that I feel like a lot of people might not grasp right away, just because it even took me a minute here. So if I just have like the hi-hats, right? Oops, there's hi-hats. The variations in the patterns is just so strange. Like, it's awesome, but it's strange. And it definitely, I feel like it kind of needs a little bit of tender love and care to totally master. But it really just made me think entirely differently about how I would, how I would have this. It just made me realize, like, you could probably use this with a few other synths and an external mixer and essentially make an entire set with it. Like, you could probably entertain an audience. They'd think you were DJing some really rad stuff, and you'd just be using this. Just be simping for Polyend the entire time. I'm going to turn the repeat to... Oh, you know what? I could actually turn off swing on just this variation. Oh, hey, there's an ant. A bug? What kind of bug is there here? Maybe I'm hallucinating. Oh well. Get it, Lucy. Welcome to Georgia. let's just not get too experimental. Let's just keep it nice. Okay, I'm going to randomize the volume on this. All right. Luckily, I was just not doing anything super important at that moment. Okay, anyway, I'm now going to just select some random things here. Oh, sorry, we hold down Shift for that. And I'm going to add the repeat to those. Okay, so now that we know how the variation works, I can unsolo this, and we'll go back to this here. This boring. And now if I want to add that variation, and we can do the same thing. And so also if we want, I don't even remember who asked this, so that's part of my, I believe that if we hold a variation, we can copy it. Let me make sure of that really fast. I believe we hold it and copy it to a new one. I know there's a way to do this. I've done it, but yeah. No, I didn't do it apparently. Oh, I must have, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna choose a better snare. I kind of like the clappy sound. Okay. And then in the variation, I'll also put it here, here, and then just, I don't know. I'm down on these. Okay. So let's go back to our pattern. So yeah, we have these two different variation areas. And now if I want like a little fill, like that. But obviously you could use it in much crazier ways than that. And it's so funny because I feel like I'm missing out on, I'm missing so much in terms of like the vastness here, but there's also this can expand to 64. You could just keep moving, you know, keep moving the page over. So it's it gets a bit crazy. Any other questions? How do generative features of the Polyend play compare to the Torso T1, Richard? That's a really good question, and I like the Torso T1 enough to have it literally right next to me. So let's talk about these differences really fast. The Torso T1 has a lot of modular options built into it. If you have a portable modular synthesizer and you want generative options on a handheld device, then this is that for that. This is great for that. It's super tiny. It fits just on the elbow rest of my modular. It's incredibly handy. It's incredibly well built, small, powered by it's powered by USB, and it's also very useful for USB. However, part of me does wish that like this is USB powered, and I forgive that because this is a portable thing that you can plug in a hotel room, or you could hook up to a USB battery pack. This is for home, typically. I mean, you can bring it on the road, but I would never pack this for anything because, you know, but some people might. That being said, USB power is noisy. You have to have a special adapter typically if you want to remove all noise. This seems okay. I do have it plugged into a different circuit than all the lights though, because if I did, it would be humming a bit. Okay, so whatever. But that's not really a huge complaint. I do just kind of wish it just had a direct power in option. So yeah, if you want a generative sequencer for modular, and if having a tactile thing like this isn't isn't important to you, like if you don't want a Polyend seek, then yeah, the torso is great. I wouldn't really compare them in any other world. In terms of just, I feel like it's easier to know what's going on with the Polyend play by design. And I feel like the torso has its own, it just has its own style of generative sequencing. And both of them are just very different from one another in terms of the types of melodies that they could generate. I wouldn't choose one over the other. I guess that's the best way I could say it. I think that they're a little bit too different. And I think you're going to run into that a lot because a lot of people are like, how does this compare to the Deluge? How does this compare to the Force? How does this compare to, and I just don't think that you can really compare these. As far as, what you have here is they took the Seek and then turned it into a groove box, essentially. But also still having, 500% of the Seek's capabilities. Are there any chances of getting a synth engine or sample splicing? I can't promise anything because I don't run Polyend. But I mean, I've looked at the GitHub and I know what they're working on. I guess I would say, rather than asking me to answer your question, I would say look at the 1.0 of this thing and then look at the current version, whatever it is, 35.0. That, and they're still cranking things out. And then same with the tracker. 1.0 was powerful, but they really, really expanded on it in crazy ways. So yeah, that's what my answer would be. Is Polyend has a history of kind of, I almost want to say no man's skying devices, but No Man's Sky was extremely disappointing because it didn't work. This works fine. It's just that they really do seem to put out 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. Their firmware updates are very solid and they keep supporting their devices for a long time. So whatever, that's a very long answer, or a non-answer, I suppose. But I would be surprised if they didn't. I would put it that way. Like, I would be surprised if this didn't expand to synthesis engines. I would also be surprised if you didn't find a bunch of different sequencing ways, which, by the way, in the stream I didn't even touch, but like, this, here, let me solo these. Sorry, just these two. So these, like these little sounds here, right? Like I mentioned, like you have the whole play mode too. Like all these different play modes, which are it's just bananas. Yeah, and then, we could add one to one and then one to the other. Like have this one go in reverse. And now we just have this like completely crazy thing happening. And so, how would I compare it to the Hapax or Squarp Hapax? So whenever I want to compare it, whenever somebody wants to compare it to another generative sequencer, I point them to, essentially, I have to actually select something, don't I? I don't want to ruin what I have here. Not that it's a genius sound, but I want to point people to like the fill functions, to be able to fill things in a hip hop, garage, house, IDM, Latin, drum and bass, etc. You have all these options, and they are generative, and I think like a lot of people, you know, when I first heard about it, when I first like heard that was happening, I was like, well, that's kind of, isn't that kind of like the Casio, like that I reviewed not long ago? Like, isn't that just kind of like having beats built in, and then you're not really making anything? But really, if you're making a drum and bass track, the beat is what kind of makes it drum and bass, doesn't it? And if you're making a garage track, you're not going to make like, you know, if you're making a techno track or a house track, you're not going to be making like crazy polyrhythms. You're going to be making like a 4/4 type thing. And so this does that. It just basically gives you a starting place, and then you could use those generative features, those really powerful and deterministic generative features, to get it past that, essentially, and make it your own and customize it. And I guess I would call it shopping. Like, it just, you're capable of like just randomly, like the sample pools, the way it puts the samples in different pools, you could just kind of keep hitting fill and shop, and just until you find a good starting place, and then you can go in and customize things. And that's, you know, most people, when they have an issue with writer's block or when they can't get started, I think it's because of that. I think it's because they can't get that first fire lit, and then that makes them move on, you know, and work with the track. It's that, you know, they just aren't inspired when they get home from work and turn on a device, and they just want to make music, but they don't really have an idea in mind. This kind of gives you that core to build off of, which, let's be honest, is fucking clever. Like, that is just so, like, that just comes from talking to musicians, which you know, in my experiences, that's what Polyend does. They spend a lot of their time talking to, I'm not going to name drop, but there's a lot of musicians more popular than myself that have consistent dialogue with Polyend about what they want, and I think it shows. Ben, I've been producing for 2 years. When I started, I would finish tracks quickly. Now it's starting much longer because I'm learning a lot and taking my time. Is this common? Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I would say that it's common, but there is a point where it becomes detrimental. That happened to me a while ago. Like, the detrimental point probably happened to me in like 10 years ago or something. And it's gotten worse until, I don't know, a few years ago, when I kind of faced it and realized that I was always trying to better myself. Like, I was always being I guess I was just trying to make a better track than the last track I made at every single time I made a song. And at some point you hit a ceiling. Everybody has a ceiling with what they can do, and you're going to hit that ceiling eventually. Yeah, I don't know. It could be 5 years, could be 2 years, could be 20 years, could be your entire life. You may never hit it, but that's worth, if you're not creating things, if you're not actually finishing an output, then, you know, you're probably suffering from that problem if you've been making music for a while. So Squarp Apex, I mean, it's just, I guess, I don't know. I wouldn't compare the two. I would kind of have the same conversation that I would have with the Torso, right? The Squarp is a powerful generative sequencer. It does not have the deterministic sort of guides that this has. It does not have the interface that this has. It does not, you know. And then, of course, it's a sequencer. It doesn't actually load samples or anything. I mean, you know, I think that if you're thinking of buying this for the purpose of it being a standalone music making device where you finish tracks, you might be a little underwhelmed, just because of, you know, it doesn't have every single feature that you would want for that, in terms of like sample playback and beat slicing. At least it doesn't have that yet. But I would make ideas on this, and then I would, you know, hook it up to something else, or I would hook this up to multiple devices and just have it the brain of a bigger setup. No wavetable support yet, but like I mentioned in another answer, if you look at Polyends, at the way that they update everything, I don't want to like make answers on things that I've seen on the GitHub. You know, like I don't want to like I don't want to make promises that Polyend is also very good at not making promises before they finish coding and testing the heck out of something. So let's just leave it there. I would be surprised if it didn't show up very soon, or in the next few months at the shortest. Does it record polyphonic MIDI like MPC or like an Octatrack? Yeah. To do so, you basically would select, like if you wanted to play C major 7th chords or something, you would just do this and then hit live record and then play and then jam away on whatever keyboard you want to hook it up on. Or, you know, something that I've utterly ignored with this device is the fact that there is a entire, God, I don't even know. It's so funny. I don't, yeah, okay. There is this, which, you know, that I don't really use just because I'm kind of a piano and guitar guy and I typically like that face, but you know, you can use that if you want. MPE, I don't actually know. I would look at the manual. I wouldn't, since it's essentially a hyper sequencer with effects and samples. I wouldn't be terribly excited about MPEs, but like I wouldn't think like, oh, I got to hook up, you know, my Expressive E controller or something. I wouldn't really think of it in that regard. But it might, I don't know. It's amazing with triplets. I just mean, it's amazing with any swing in general because you can swing every single track independently, which is kind of, I think that's why this kind of sounds so grumpy. Yeah, cleaning it, dude, if any, I've not had any issues yet, and I've brought this thing, I think I've even scratched, did I? No, that's just my fingerprint. I brought this, I mean, I've had this thing outside quite a bit. I've definitely like played with it while hanging out. And I mean, if you're on the fence and if you're just like, I don't know, if you don't need it right now, wait a month. When I get back from NAMM, I'll be bringing this thing to all sorts of desert locations. And if it's hard to clean, I'll let you know. But by the way, I mean, even like, you know, things like this, if you have issues with cleaning things, like little things like this, the Befacto synth brush is incredible. Like, I have no idea what the fuck they did to make a brush clean synth better. Like, it just doesn't, like, the fact that they even thought about that they like took the idea out and they were like, all right, let's compound this and let's put our heads together and do some R&D and figure out how to clean these synths. Like, the fact that somebody even did that is just mind-bending to me. And the fact that it worked is 100 times more mind-bending. And so, yeah, they sent one to me randomly. I just got a random like Befacto was like, yo, we want to send you a package. This isn't for a video. We just want to send it to you. And I was like, oh, sweet. I think you're going to send me nice. And then I opened up just like a brush. What was this, for my dog? But I used it on my modular on some, oh my God. Yeah. Buy that thing. Next to that, life hack, slime. Yeah, that's right. Slime, cleaning slime. The stuff's incredible. if you find it on sale, because it could get a bit pricey because you can't really use it more than a few times, but run some cleaning slime over this. Like, it's usually for cars, like for dashboards, because you know how like pollen and stuff just kind of gets like stuck in your dashboard console. The slime just picks that stuff right up. But yeah, run some slime over this, you're set. Or keep it on there and, you know, pretend that you're I don't know. Don't want to say anything too weird. Befacto synth brush is what it is called. BEFACTO. Oh, it's a rebranded barber brush. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's good to know. I would yeah, if you just search like cleaning slime, you'll find some, or car cleaning slime. But that stuff's been like a lifesaver. Like, literally, it gets so dusty down here sometimes, especially in the spring when like all the pollen's coming in the window. Yeah, and a lot of times I'll just have like 10 minutes before a stream and I'll just be like, Jesus Christ, it's so dusty. Because I'm not a clean person and I'm no dictator. Yeah, and so I just run the slime, the slime and the synth brush, and it does its job. Yeah, man, those meal vacuums, you know, I got an opinion that I want to share about those that a lot of people aren't going to like. But has anybody ever thought to themselves that maybe a super pumped up successful Reddit AMA telling everybody to buy the same brand of vacuum is clever marketing, and not, you know, not the fact that one brand of vacuum is the best? Just saying. I I don't like cleaning, so I like getting through my vacuuming quite quick. And I gotta say, I think that there's a lot of bullshit in the meal. I mean, I think it's a good vacuum, but for the price, I think you can actually do quite possibly a little bit better by simply, here's what you do. Go to a hotel. When the maid comes in the room, say, hey, what kind of vacuum are you using? Go to a major hotel like a Hilton. Say, hey, what kind of vacuum are you using? Go buy that model, because they have to use it nonstop on disgusting messes every single day. Or CVS, they have carpet. Say, hey, what kind of vacuums you guys use? You probably went through 100 different brands before you settled on one. Buy that one. I'm not going to endorse a vacuum on my stream, but I'm pretty happy with my vacuums. No, so a backstory of what I'm talking about is the Meal or Miel. Randomly, like 5 years ago, there was a Reddit AMA that just blew up weirdly. It was just like on the front page where it was like, I think it was, I'm a vacuum repair person. I will tell you what kind of vacuum works best. And then basically just said anything using a tank is not as good as anything that uses a bag, which, you know, there's an argument for that, I suppose. But it just kind of went into this cult-like thing where, like, the Meal one, the upright handheld Meal one with the extensions, it's just kind of an expensive luxury vacuum, is the last vacuum you'll ever buy. And, you know, when you look into it, these things don't really have that great of a warranty. And, you know, if people are happy with their vacuums, that's fine. But I do think it's funny that people think that's not marketing when that's clearly marketing. Like, there's no way that would have happened. Yeah. Why would that get to the front page? Yeah, and hey, bag back. I mean, I use my shop vac. I have like a really nice shop vac for when I made this place. I finished this basement essentially. I had a lot of crap. I have a really nice shop vac. It's a bagged shop. I put a bag in it, but here's the deal: it has a bag, or it could just be a wet dry vac. Both modes work equally as good, because think about it. You're not like It's not like if you don't have a bag, a bunch of air is escaping out. You're still creating a vacuum in there. And I have like an actual vacuum where you create a vacuum chamber for science stuff. And it's the same, or it's not a bag in that. It's just a chamber. And so it's essentially, that's what's happening. And it's, yeah, it's just funny because the reason I use a bag is because I don't want to dump out a bunch of dust and get it all over the place. I just want to take the bag and put it in the garbage if I'm cleaning up a bunch of, I don't know, if I drilled a bunch of stuff and I have a bunch of shavings or concrete all over the floor or something like that. And so just that, I guess the whole thing started is that like everybody needs to buy a bagged vacuum because they're so much better than non-bagged ones. It's like, that's just doesn't make any sense. Like there's no like, I don't know, just break that down in your head. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so let's get back to the play here before I sign out. What's missing on Tracker in terms of C's? I think you're asking somebody else a question. I had no issues with the CC support going into the Tracker. In fact, I was a little overwhelmed. I didn't map everything, or I didn't even like check to see what was mapped because I already had enough options to complete what I need to do. All right. Well, on that note, when you start talking about vacuums, you know you've run out of solid questions. Does it integrate well with a DAW? Yes and no. I mean, it integrates well with the DAW as a sequencer. It does not currently have multiple USB outs, which I hope they add. I don't know if it has the power to do that. That'd be nice for somebody who wanted to actually finish a song on it. But I wouldn't be like, thing's not broken if it doesn't do that. So yeah. But this is a DAW-less, a DAW-less device. I'm still a renoise tracker abuser. Is Polyend worth it? What, the Polyend tracker? I mean, I often look at people, when I find people that complain about the Polyend tracker for like what it is at that price, I do so out of like just morbid curiosity because I'm usually laughing, right? It's usually like, what the hell do you expect? Like out of a $600 device? Like, I mean, the thing's incredible. The thing's probably, it's a classic, instant classic. And this works perfectly with it. Yeah, if you like trackers, you should definitely own a Polyend tracker. I mean, it's like, it cannot render stems like in Tracker, and I hope that they do add that. And I don't know if they're going to add that. Again, it was one of those things where I'd be surprised if they didn't. But I think it's more made to start ideas than it is to complete tracks. Whereas the Polyend Tracker is kind of bringing you back to like when you made an entire song on a tracker. Whereas this is, keep in mind that you could sequence something here and then record it on the tracker, etc., vice versa, with whatever you want. All right. Well, I think that I am going to get back to resting and getting over this whole fun COVID thing. Yeah, that obviously I'm not going to do a stream tonight. This is my stream for today. And I will see you next week. I actually have like 3 different things competing for a stream next week. So I get to pick which I like the most. I don't think one of them's released yet, so I don't want to say. But the new Arturia collection is one of them. So that's in the mix. That's very cool. I've been playing with that a little bit too when I was in Miami on my laptop and stuff. Thank you to all my patrons, of course, for making this stream possible. And yeah, hope you like the new digs. It's a little bit nicer than the other room. I mean, I'll still use the other room if I'm in front of like a session or something, but for hardware, I think I'll be using this because I, have the ability to do this stuff and just looks cooler, and hopefully no more sample rate issues. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I hope that everybody has a good week. And one last reminder to stay safe. Remember that COVID's still real. I'm a healthy dude, got Omicron, ended up in the hospital. No joke. We're fully vaxxed, fully boosted. You never know. Pre-existing conditions aren't, you don't know until they are existing conditions. So stay safe. See you soon.